Rabbi also tell him, he should use his title to inspire others.
You could even be a count.
Absolutely.
Okay, we're starting on Yudam at Bay is the bottom line.
Yeah.
Today is Daf Yud Aleph.
Right.
Good morning. Pass a nice Gemara over, the bottom one over there.
Yeah, good morning. We're about to start.
Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning, Rabbi Smith. How are you?
Hashem. Okay, we're on 10b, on the bottom line. Talking about the Kmitza. And we quote from the Mishnah, Kamatz. The Kohen does Kmitza, Va'ala biyadai, and it came up into his hand, into the Kmitza hand, Tzrar, either a pebble, a Gargar Melach, the bottom line of Yudam Beis. No, you're in Tzvachim. Turn to the middle.
Sorry.
A Gargar Melach, or a, how do you say a piece of salt? Is there a term for it? A crystal.
Salt.
Probably a crystal.
Crystal,
Because salts
yeah.
are crystals. A crystal of salt. A karet lavana, or a sliver of the frankincense. It's puzzle. Why? It's puzzle because it's not complete. The kaimetz is a specific measurement. It needs to be exactly a kaimetz. So he fills up his hand with the flour and the oil, but because there was a pebble in there, or because there was salt or levina, it's not full. There's something else in there that's using up that space.
No, I'm not finding this, Rabbi.
The middle of the page, middle of the book starts Menachos.
Okay.
There's two Menachos there.
Okay, got it.
The Gemara asks, Kol Hani Lamli. Why do we need three examples to tell me the same thing? Gemara says, Tzricha, it's necessary. Why? Because I wouldn't have understood the full halacha with only one example. The Yitzan Tanatzrar, if it would have said that it has a pebble in it, Mishum Dla Basakravihi, because that's not something that's offered on the altar. So that isn't counted. Avol Melach de Basakravihi, but if it would have said salt, that salt is offered on the altar. When is salt offered on the altar? Very interesting. The kaimetz that's offered on the altar, you have to put salt in it. Al kol minchascha takriv melach, and every mincha, everything that was put on the altar had salt. So the salt that's got into the kaimetz is something that's offered anyway. So I would think that maybe that should be acceptable. Emet is kasher. I would say that that's kosher. V'itana melach, and if it would say that melach is not kosher, not that salt is not kosher, the salt is not valid. If it's taking the space in the kaimetz, because that's not established together with the mincha. That's only after it's put on the altar. You add the salt on. Meikara from the beginning, originally. You can skip the parentheses. He says over here, that may be the reason, or the reason may be because it's only put on later. But the levina, the frankincense, that's established together with the mincha originally. It's in the original pot. So Emet Iskasha, I could say that maybe that is an acceptable to be in the space of the kaimetz. So Kamash Malan comes to tell us that that is not good. Rashi has an interesting question. Rashi says, that we really could have said just levina, and then I would have had a kal v'chaimer. But automatically, I would have understood that you can't use a rock and you can't use salt as well. And he says yes, that is true. It actually would have worked, but it did it in not only this, but even that type of way. It's called loizu afsu. That is correct, though. Okay. The Mishnah says, the reason is because why is it not valid if it has a rock or a salt? Because a kaimitz that's missing or it has extra, it's not valid. The Gemara says, "My area mishum chaser beyater." Why is it? The word area maybe comes from the word grabbing or attached. Why is it specifically saying that the problem here is because it has missing or it has extra? It doesn't have extra, but that the kaimitz is lacking. But why is that the reason for it to be puzzle? The teipuk mishum chatzitza. Just say that it did not go into the hand directly, because the rock is touching the hand, and you don't have it full. One part of the hand, one edge of the hand. And even if you're going to say that maybe it's not touching the hand, maybe it's in the center, then it's dividing the kmitza into two halves. And I have two halves of kmitzas there, which is also not acceptable. But why does it have to be? Because you don't have a full measurement. Rabbi Yirmiyah Menatzad. Rabbi Yirmiyah says it's talking about like this, because Jeff, you can't see this, but when you fold over your fingers, so if you raise your thumb up, so you could have a piece of salt that's right at the edge, because there's a gap there, you see, right over there, which is not touching your fingers, and it's not separating the kaimetz in the middle into two halves. It's just on the side, but it is taking up space. So Rabbi Yirmiyah is saying that it's possible that it's taking up space, but it's not a chatzitza, because it's on the side. Okay. Amalei Abaye l'Rava. Abaye says to Rava, Ketzad kaimtin. How do you do kmitza? Amalei kedekamti inshi. He says you do it like people do kmitza. What's it called when people don't like to answer with all the details? Just like, yeah, whatever, There's a word for it. Good morning. Sometimes people they try to play down everything. They play down everything. So Rabbi just says, yeah, you do it like you do. So Eisvei asked him a question. What the kamti inti sounds like is that you use all your fingers, like you make a fistful, it would be called a fistful, even though it's not a fist tight like that, but it would be a palmful, right? You would go like that. That's what it sounds like Rav is saying. But Abaye asks him back, Zu zeres. Okay, now we start from. We're going to go through the fingers, the names of the different fingers. We start from the pinky. So it says Zu zeres. The pinky is called the zeres. What's the significance of the zeres? Because if you take the measurement from the pinky,
What's the zeres?
the pinky,
The zeres is called
the pinky is the
zeres.
from the zeres to the thumb, that would be the size of the choshen. It's a zeres arka. So that's
the
called
whole
the zeres.
choshen?
Yeah. How long?
I thought it was bigger than that.
I know, because we imagine
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right.
In our imagination, it's very large. Of how important it is. That's what they said when they bought the Rebbe Stender. So the Rabbi Gerari and Rabbi Greenberg from Buffalo, they bought the Rebbe Stender. So the two of them are rather short, but they brought the Rebbe like a very tall Stender, and they explained afterwards. They said in their mind the Rebbe was like so tall because every time they went into Yechidus, it was just he was much larger than in their minds. So when they said what size Stender, it was much anyway. The choshen was this big. Was that from the zeres? This is the pinky. Okay. Now we do the next finger. Zu kmitza. This is the kmitza finger. That means that the ring finger, what we call the ring finger, is the first finger that's used in the kmitza, which means the zeres is not used. This is the finger for the kmitza. Zu ama. This middle finger is the way you measure an ama, because you would measure from your elbow straight up, the tallest. That would be called the ama. It's an ama. It's probably about 18 inches.
1.5 feet.
Yeah. Maybe 2 feet. It's machlekes. how big an amma is. But it would go straight all to the tallest finger, which is the middle finger. Zu etzba, the what's it called? The first finger, the
Pointer finger.
Index.
The index finger. The index finger is the etzba. In Zugudel, this is the thumb. So we have a name for each.
So chronologically, that's how it started. Chronologically, it started with the bottom.
Yeah. The way we're explaining the fingers is we start with the pinky, the zeres, the kmitza, the amma, the etzba. The only one that's called the finger is the index finger. It's called etzba, and then the gudel, the large one, called like goidel. Okay, and so the problem is that you said that kmitza is the way a Rava tells Abaya that the way you do kmitza is the way people do kmitza, which means that they just make a fistful. It says, yeah, but it says that the kmitza is this ring finger, not the bottom finger. So he responds, El lahashves. The bottom finger is there to scrape off the edges to make it even, right? Okay, then you have in the parentheses, which means to say, I never know who adds in these parentheses. The Shita Mikvetzes takes it out. They quote from the Diktuki Seifrim that it was a commentary on the side that somehow ended up into the text. Okay. Hechi Avid. How do you do kmitza? Amar Rav Zutra Bar Tuvia Amar Rav. Rav Zutra Bar Tuvia says in the name of Rav that chayfe shalish itzpais. I thought chayfe meant that you close up, but apparently chayfe means to stretch out. Three fingers. Ad shemagiad pas yaday. You stretch them out until they reach your. It's got to mean cover over. It must mean that you bend them. Chayfe must mean to bend. It says you stretch out the three fingers until they cover your pas, is the palm of your hand. V'koimitz, and then you do kmitza. Yeah, but it's already closed. It's already closed. It must mean that you stretch it out like that, so you have it in that form, and then you stick it in, and then you do the kmitza. Okay. Tanya Nami Hachi was also taught in a brisa. Maloi kaimtzei. You take a fistful, a kaimitzful. Yachol mavuretz. Maybe it's talking about that it's popping out on the edges. The pasuk says, another pasuk says bikaimtzei. It's not in the same place. It's 4 chapters later, but it says the word bikaimtzei in his kaimetz, which means it has to be exact, not popping out. See, the bays could mean with or in. The prefix bays. Mm-hmm. So the Gemara could play with that. Because I could have read it V'hei mimeno bekumtei, that you raise up from it with his fist, and it wouldn't tell me anything. But if I say bekumtei, I raise it up in his fist, then it means it needs to be only what fits inside, not what's popping out. So then that would tell me that the exact measurement. If it means just what's inside, maybe it's just the tops of the fingers. In other words, I could bend them over like that, and it would just be the top. Now, I think what the Gemara means. No, okay, just that. No, it needs to be full. Okay, so how do you do it? You stretch out the 3 fingers onto the palm. And you do kmitza. Okay, b'machvas u'b'marcheshes. When it comes to with these 2 types of pans that are the fried flour in oil, so these are moichek b'goylei malmaila. You have to also on the top. You have to squeeze it off with the thumb. You have to even it out with the thumb. And with the small finger on the bottom, which means with the zeres on the bottom. Now, here it says, machmas mercheshes, it says that they're baked. Why are they considered baked? They have oil in them. problem with these is that you can't turn them back into crumbs. So you probably have to like crack it off the way it's made. And that's why it's telling you that you need to use your thumb. What about the other ones? What about the other types of menachos? Do you have to use your thumb? Probably yes. I mean, that's what we said. But so one of the commentaries here comments on that. Okay, the comment here is that apparently from our Gemara, this din of evening it out is only by these two menachos. However, Rashi later on Daf Nun Daled, he says that that you have to do it by the other menachos as well. The Rashash explains that what is the brisa? What is it a brisa? No, it's a brisa. Yeah. What does it mean that b'machvas u'marcheshes specifically that over here it took extra effort to do it because of they were harder, so you had to push harder to even it out. Okay, but you really have to clean it out. You have to even it out by all the other menachos as well. Then the Gemara says, the brisa avodah kasha shebemikdash. This is the hardest activity in the mikdash. The Gemara says, zu v'sulai, this and there's nothing else. V'ha'ika, there are other things. Malika seems to be very hard. You have to push the fingernail through the neck. Bika chafina, there is the scooping of the hands of the Kohen Gadol when he goes into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. He has to have his 2 fists full being taken out of a pan, or a spoon of the. So he has to hold the fire. I think he's holding the fire pan, or maybe he puts the fire pan down. I don't remember if he's holding the fire pan. He puts the fire pan down, but he has the spoon, and somehow he has to empty out the spoon that holds 2 fistfuls back into his fist, and so he has to get it back with using his fingertips and his thumb to turn it over, and to turn it over into his hands, and then he would put it from his hands into the over the coals that are in the fire pan. So that's supposed to be very hard as well. The Gemara then just edits the brisa. It says Elazuhi achas mi'avedus kasher shebemikdash. No, this is one of the hardest. That was an easy answer. Okay. Amar Rav Papa. Rav Papa says, Pshitali. The following is obvious to me. You always have to be worried whenever he says something like that because you know there's a big question coming. It says, Pshitali. It's obvious to me that Malay Kumtze means Kedekamtze Yinchi. That the full Kmitza means the way people do Kmitza. It means that you stick your hands in. You stick your hands into the flour and you push your hands in, and you fold your fingers over, and you have a fistful. However, boy Rav Papa has a question. Kamatz broshet spice of my. Let's say you don't put your whole hand in. Let's say you just get out a little bit into the tips of your fingers, and then you spread it out. Put the hands in again, and spread it out. Till you fill it up. But you're not pushing your hands all the way in and doing a scoop. You're just getting little drops and pushing it onto your hand. Menachos mai. Let's say you don't put your hand in straight down. You put your hand in and you push it over from the side. You put your hand on top, probably backwards, and then you push it over into your kaimetz on the side. So you're not digging your fingers in. Or let's say mimata lamaila, let's say you do it from below to above. This would be that you push your fingers down until it pops up above your hand, and then you close it up. would that also be acceptable? Somewhere it says teku. Doesn't know the answer to that.
So it was a good question.
Yeah. Amar of Papa. We're not done. Pshitali, it's obvious to me, Malay Chafnav Kidachafni Inchi. I should point out that there's 2 times that he had to do Chafina. Yeah, the Kain Gadol. One time was, this is probably it. Outside the sanctuary, he has to put it into the spoon. How much does he put into a spoon? How much ketairos, incense? This is on Yom Kippur, the Kain Gadol. He needs 2 fistfuls. So first he has to measure 2 fistfuls. So it says he has to take 2 fistfuls and then he puts them into the spoon. Then he goes into the sanctuary with the spoon and he has to empty it back into his fistfuls and pour it over the fire pan. So when he's doing chafina the first time, you have to put your hands in to scoop it up. I don't know if you do it like that, or you probably do it like you put your hands in and you get a scoop. You know, it's interesting when it comes to the fistful. You don't. It's not like the ketairos that it needs to be machuk, perfectly flat on the top, and it's not that it's like a big heap like that. It's somewhere in the middle where it's like just slightly raised above the sides of the fingers. It's a little bit more. So, Rav Papa's question is that chafina you do that by putting your hands in. However, chafan brashet spaisav mao menatzdadim mao chafan bezu v'korban zuetzuzu mao. The same questions that he had with the kmitza. Let's say you put just the tips of your fingers in, or let's say you push it over into your hand from the side, probably with your thumb, or you did 2 hands separately and then you put them together. Is that acceptable? Gemara says take you. Doesn't have an answer. Boy, Rav Papa. Rav Papa has more questions. Rav Papa does have questions like this. Rabbi Yomi is the one that's famous for the questions. Rav Papa is more famous for resolving machlekasin. He would say like, oh, they're not really arguing; they're just talking about separate things. He's more like the peaceful. But okay, here he has these questions. Davke lekaimetz b'dafanei demana. Let's say you're supposed to take the kaimetz and put it into a bowl. It's called kiddush kaimetz. We're back to the mincha now. You do the kmitza, then you put it into a bowl. We had one opinion that said maybe you don't have to do that, but according to the opinion that you do have to put it into the bowl. Okay, so let's say you don't put it down into the bottom of the bowl. You take it and you push it onto the side of the bowl until it sticks there. What's the halacha? Does it need to be within the vessel, and it is? Or maybe you need to put it down in it, and you didn't do that. It's not down on the bottom, it's on the side. Teku. He doesn't have an answer. Boy Mar Bar Ravashi. Ravashi has a question. Hafche lamana v'dafke l'kaimetz barisa. Barisa damana. Mai. Okay, you know those kiddush cups that have a stem? So as a kid we always used to joke that the top part was for fleishiks and you turn it over and the bottom was for milchiks. But if there was a vessel that was like that in the temple, which meant that it was clear which side was up, but on the bottom of it, it had a little indentation as well, like the wine bottle has a little indentation on the bottom. So let's say you take a vessel, you turn it over, and in that little indentation, you put it in there. So Mar Bar Ravashi's question is like this. You take the kaimetz and you put it into the indentation that's from underneath. Hanacha b'seicha b'inan. Do you have to put it inside the vessel, which you did, v'hayaka, you did? Or do you need to do it correctly, the way it's made to be used, and you did not do that? So teku. He leaves this as a question. Okay. Okay, to the way Zak the Mishnah. Mishnah says, how does he do the kmitza? The last Mishnah told us that if it wasn't full, because there was something stuck inside, so it wasn't acceptable. Now it says, how does he do kmitza? He says he stretches out his fingers. Paishet as baisav al pas yadin. Paishet is more clear. he stretches out his fingers to the palm of his hand. Riba Shamna. Let's say he gave too much oil. We'll see what this means. Chiser Shamna, he didn't give enough oil. Chiser Levainasa, he didn't give enough Levaina, which is the frankincense, so it's psula, it's invalid. How much Levaina was supposed to be there?
I don't understand, Rabbi. It says Riba Shemna, Cheser Shemna, Cheser of Nasa Psula. What?
It goes like this. It's three examples where the halacha is at the end psula.
Oh.
Riba Shamna, Kama. Chiser Shamna, Chiser Levainasa. It's funny, it doesn't say Riba Levainasa. That's why it's throwing you off.
Right.
It didn't give the.
No, in other words,
too much
the way you
Levaina.
said it was like Riba Shamna. If there was too much oil, or if there was too little oil, we're going to see. And then it says.
No,
and then you said
the halacha
goes.
No, the halacha at the end is psula goes on all three.
Okay.
All three. The reason why it's not symmetrical. It doesn't have the two examples by the Levaina like it does by the Shemen. By the Shemen it says too much, too little. Levaina just says too little. It doesn't say too much.
Okay.
So that's why it confused you. But the halacha is by all of them it's puzzle. I think the Levaina.
And what's the answer? I mean, if it
is
was
supposed
Riva.
to be the Levaina is supposed to be a kaimetzvah, and you put it onto the mincha, but then you have to do kmitza from the mincha.
What about
Sorry?
if there is too much? It doesn't say. It doesn't address if there was too much. Riva Levanasa.
The Gemara is going to explain. The Gemara will explain that. Hechidami riba shamna. What's the case where you have too much oil? Amar Rabbi Lazar. It says Rabbi Eliezer. It's probably Rabbi Lazar. Let's see. What's the hey? It's supposed to be Rabbi Lazar. Rabbi Eliezer is not in the Gemara. It's always in the Gemara. Rabbi Eliezer is in the Mishnah. Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkenes. Rabbi Eliezer is Rabbi Eliezer ben Pedas. He was a student of Rabbi Yechanan. And he always starts off, many times the Gemara starts off with these like early Amiraim that are explaining the Mishnah. So Rabbi Eliezer says, what's the case where there's too much oil? The example is that you designated 2 lug. You really only need 1 lug. You designated 2. So the Gemara understands from this that you designated enough for 2 menachos. So you've reached a much larger measurement than which is appropriate, because the mincha is only supposed to have 1 lug. You designated 2. That's enough for 2 menachos. The Gemara asks, "Look, make you going to arav b'shem and the chulin, b'shem and the chaverta." Why doesn't he just say that you added in a drop extra oil from the side, from something that was chulin, or maybe from a separate mincha? Why does he have to say that you have the measurement of 2 menachos here? You could have used in another case that could have been puzzle. And what would that case be? Well, too much, because you added a little extra from the side.
If I can ask you a question, if it's talking about chulin here, we're talking about something holy, right?
Right.
How could you even be talking about that? That would make it. In other words, he's saying that maybe it's a case where, but instead of saying that it might be a case where there's an extra lug, maybe say that there was chulin in it, right?
Right.
But how could you have chulin in it? Wouldn't that be a problem?
You're asking that the problem would not have been that you had too much.
Right.
The problem would
How do you
have
have
been
chulin to
that you
begin
had
with?
chulin. Let me see. That's a good question. what he's asking, according to one commentary here, which would answer your question, in order for it to become sanctified, it needs to be a full lug. So when you give 2 lugin, that's enough for 2 menachos. So then you have it sanctified. But if you would give a lug and a half, that other half would be considered chulin because it wasn't sanctified. So what really Rashi said, the way the Gemara is explaining this, according to Rashi, is that why doesn't the Gemara say that it's just a lug and a half? When the way it refers to the half is saying chulin, because it doesn't get sanctified a half a lug because it's not the measurement for another mincha. What it means to say is that why does he have to say 2 full lug? Just say a lug and a half. That's what he's asking, and that should be puzzle. Or you took from a different mincha and you added some. Okay. So the Gemara says that maybe you'll say that Shemen Dechul and Shemen Dechaver Lei Pasel. It doesn't become invalid with that. It needs to be something significant to make it invalid, and that would be another full lug, because that would look like you have 2 menachos here. Maskefla Rav Tuvia, Rav Zutra Bar Tuvia. Rav Zutra Bar Tuvia has this question, Elameyata. If that's the case, that if you have that it needs to be sanctified. It needs to be kodesh. They take this out, this not. In order for it to passel, you need to have too much qualified oil to make it invalid. We're on 11a. According to this, minchas choite, if someone does a sin and he has to bring a carbon mincha, what type of sin? He came into the sanctuary impure, or he was administered an oath that he doesn't know testimony, and he lied. So the pasal b'shemen, that you don't add oil to that mincha, and if you do, it's invalid. How are you going to have a case? The Mishnah says that if you add oil to it, it's invalid. Ididei, if it's its own oil, halesla, you don't have. It must be that it's the chulin or the chaverta. Either chulin or the chaverta ha'amet le'pasel. You just said that if you add oil from it needs to be 2 lug in order to make it on a regular mincha where you have 1 lug. How does it become pasel? If you add a 2nd lug. But if you would add chulin oil, or if you would add oil from a different mincha, it wouldn't invalidate it. So how does a minchas choyti ever become pasel? Because of too much, because you added oil. If it's